Oh shit, you ready? Let's open this up. None of this 4x3, let's get 16x9 in the house. There it is. Hello! Welcome to today's disaster.
I'm excited.
The question is will the disaster be Ben's hopes and dreams being shattered or my hopes and dreams being shattered?
It can only be one.
It can only be one. We've decided to maybe accompany this with the Symphony of Seagulls from the Umineko title screen.
Yep. Maybe we'll add something else in.
Yeah,
we'll see.
we'll also be interspersing some cuts from our footage throughout the series. But I guess we should explain what this is. You might be thinking to yourself, that there text document says solving the Epitaph. And you'd be like, that's a load of shit.
It is a load of shit. As far as I know, I can't prove nothing.
Here's what happened. Is since our last recording, which was just the beginning of the Second Twilight in episode 3.
Yep.
I was like, alright, cool, we've looked at the Epitaph and for the first time on screen, someone has supposedly solved it and become Beatrice.
Yep, that was a weird thing, but that's fine.
Is there like a community name for what that is? Like,
we call that character Ava Beatrice.
Yeah, okay,
cool. Just to be clear.
Yeah, so just for consistency, Ava Beatrice just happened and then the Second Twilight happened.
Yeah.
Which was heaps of fun, but what that meant to me is that it was time to knuckle down and solve this Epitaph.
There was some proof that it could be solved. At least theoretically.
I also was very, very scorned by Ben being like, well, you've been making fun of all these characters for not trying the Epitaph. And look,
it's true though. You hadn't said jack or shit. You had not said anything. I was like, yo, you should be solving the Epitaph.
Here's the thing though, is given what's in this document, we will demonstrate that I waited until the opportune moment.
Sure. Oh god.
But my goodness, the amount of coincidences that fell in place to let this happen the way that it did.
It's true. I will say,
pretty beautiful.
Before we jump into the document, I didn't really bother with solving the Epitaph during my playthrough, so maybe just maybe, I wanted someone else to have that opportunity. So maybe I am truly selfless, is what I'm trying to say.
Of course. Truly selfless.
Truly selfless.
Yeah, so I guess the other thing we should do is at the start of this video, before we crack down, I'll put like a thing in the description if you want to skip all of our introduction bullshit and just get up to us solving it.
To the meat.
But I wanted to give a quick shout out to Rekenjima.org.
Oh yeah, we should do that.
So we're going to be uploading this episode early to Rekenjima.org. It's going to be on the channel unlisted, and we're going to give them early access for the support that they've given us. And basically what that'll mean is that for you guys who are watching the playthrough just on YouTube, you'll get to this point and it'll be in sequence. But for those of you who are on Rekenjima, hello, welcome to this early episode.
You guys are the best.
Woo! And I guess we should jump into it.
Cool.
So, I've split this document up all nice and neatly. There's a couple of, like, weird inconsistencies in my typing because I did it very late at night, so there's some missing capitalizations, but whatever. So yeah, solving Epitaph, an overprepared text document. Hi, YouTube. The progression of an Epitaph theory.
Jesus Christ.
So,
how long is this?
This is 21 pages? 21 pages long.
21 pages, but this includes our Discord chat.
Yes, there are about 4,000 words, which is our Discord chat, just to show the, like, progression of thought for anyone who is actually so interested as to go do that.
Yep.
But I guess we should start where I started. So, as I said, we kind of started after the first Twilight. The adults sat down, discussed the Epitaph, and then Ava fell asleep, spoke with her younger self, and then went and solved the Epitaph. And somehow her younger self ended up being the witch.
There's a question there. I don't
really
know.
Weird.
We're not at the end of EP3 yet, so we don't really...
Yeah.
You know, we have questions. Many questions.
We do have questions. It'll be really funny if we get to the end of episode 3 and it's like, this is already all out the window. I wouldn't even be mad, but I've put all of this effort in, so it's going out there.
The goal just doesn't exist. That'd be great.
But basically what happened is, I was like, okay, so given the clues that we have, apparently getting the key requires some knowledge of Japanese and some knowledge of the context of Kinzo's life, which the adults were like, yeah, we all know that.
I wonder about the meaning of that thing in the beginning, the beloved hometown. Normally that would refer to where grandfather lived, right? Since father went to all the trouble of telling us that it's beloved, we can imagine it's a hometown he had strong feelings for. Did father come from Odawara? Odawara's definitely where he was born, but I don't think that's the hometown he loved. I imagine all of our siblings have the same place in mind. Right. This probably isn't Odawara. From what I've heard, he had a very fun time as a youth. Yeah.
And that was it.
They didn't really talk about it. They were like, these are all of our theories, and none of them were correct,
none of them told us where this beloved hometown that they supposedly all knew about was.
Yeah, they were so on Odawara, but they were like, no, that doesn't make any sense. You hated his time there, right?
Yeah, so then what happened is I was like, alright, I need to tackle this from the bottom up. I need to figure out where the gold is first, and then work backwards. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting down, we were playing a tabletop role-playing game, because that's what we do.
You were very rude.
I was very rude.
Barely contributed.
I was very distracted.
There was shit going down, but that's okay. This is more important.
Here's what happened, is you at some point mentioned gold.
Yes.
Which, I mean, was like...
I did.
It just, like, it was what I was thinking about anyway, but just the moment you said it, it was like suddenly the gear started turning faster, and I was like, oh shit, the last time we saw gold was in the chapel.
Okay.
And the last time that we'd seen all of the adults in the chapel was with Beatrice. Mm-hmm. Before they all died except Rosa, who apparently also didn't remember being there.
Yep.
Whoa!
What is this?
What is this?
Where are we now? Oh, I'm so interested. Okay, here we go.
I have no objections. Natsui and I acknowledge it.
What are they acknowledging? Yeah. I can't believe it and I don't want to, but this is the truth, isn't it?
Natsui, choose your words more carefully. She's this family's most honored guest.
Are you ready for this shit?
Where are they, though?
I also acknowledge it. Can't argue back.
Yes, I acknowledge it. I have absolutely no complaints. I can't believe you have my honest respect.
So good.
Me too. Incredible. I genuinely respect you. So I have to acknowledge it.
I acknowledge it too. I still can't believe it. Still, what can I do? You've proven devils.
Now, my thought was that perhaps in this scene, and also given that there were 3 bars of gold on the table when they found them.
Yep.
Given that, I thought that maybe Beatrice was an allusion to the gold there.
Okay.
So I was thinking that the chapel is at least... I thought it was where the gold was. I still think that might be the case. And then when we look at the red truce that we were given here, there's only one key to the chapel. It is impossible to unlock the chapel without the chapel's key. When the door to the chapel is unlocked, it prevents any and all...
Is locked.
Yeah, is locked. It prevents any and all methods of entry or exit. 6 people definitely entered. This morning, Rosa, whatever. Kind of not relevant to this theory, at least. But basically, the point was that none of these necessarily disproved a hidden exit in the chapel. So I was like, okay, that is worded in such a way that I think it might be intentional, and I decided to kind of stick with this theory and move with it. This was also before we had, like, Beatrice's closed room definition, and I've been talking about the, like, locked rooms in the story as they follow a progression. So I think actually what's happening in the story is that each locked room, when Beatrice is like, well, this thing you thought last time can't be the case, I think that actually the last locked room probably could be solved that way, and that's why those holes are being plugged.
Yeah, you think that the rules that are being introduced later are used to make it seem like we're disproving the solution to the last puzzle, but the new rules don't necessarily apply to the last puzzle.
Yeah.
They apply to the new puzzle.
Because the actual, like, progression of how the locked rooms have been built up makes sense that we're actually building up the audience's understanding of locked rooms.
It definitely is.
And then we're getting to, like, crazy difficult ones.
Yep. Sounds good.
So I think, like, all of the earlier locked rooms could actually be solved with these easier methods, which is why I think that maybe this one actually is, like, a hint here, that at least the chapel has something to do with the gold. If not, that's where the entrance to this, like, tunnel we saw is. The other thing that I pointed out, which you can see down in the Discord chat, is I was like, there's nothing hidden in the chapel. Sent a picture saying, however, Kinzo apparently viewed it as a very sacred place, so Rosa and her siblings had been given strict instructions not to approach it unnecessarily.
There's nothing hidden there.
There is nothing hidden there. So, like, that was kind of, like, just made me outrageously suspicious. I don't know if we're kind of getting onto, like, just confirmation bias or whatever there, but
sure.
That was at least what I was thinking at the time. So, with that kind of in mind, I started to move on to the next parts of the Epitaph. So, the next thing that we got to, and you can read lots of it in the text document, is talking about how I didn't really know what we were looking for to actually get this key and what all of these different clues were. So I spitballed a few ideas.
Because there's the 3 parts, right? You gotta get the key, you gotta execute the Twilights, and then you gotta reach the Golden Land. Or you're at the Golden Land, rather.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 main parts.
So it was like getting the key, journey to the land, and then
Arrival at the land.
Something like that.
I think that's how Kyrie kind of explained it. Yeah.
So the few ideas I had, which you can all see in the Discord log as well for the most part, and this document is all hot linked and stuff, so you can actually just click to go between the different sections.
Super cool.
Basically, the first thing that I was thinking, like way back when, was that perhaps the key, the river, the shore, the village, all had to do with all the allusions to Dante's Divine Comedy. So, you know, Paradiso, Purgatorio, and Inferno. Because Beatrice is a character in that story, which I'd kind of forgotten about when I actually mentioned for the first time I'd read it, which was really disappointing to me, going back on it. Because I was like, I know that story, and then just completely forgot about an important character in it.
She's pretty important. She's like the final goal.
Yeah, I'd only, like, really kind of skim read it for the sake of being able to say that I'd read it. So I kind of, like, knew the surface, but not much about it. But anyway, so the idea was that maybe it's an allusion to something in that story, so I was thinking maybe we should, like, read through that story and find something. The other thing that I'd been thinking, which is part of why I was building up this theory, is that because the murder mystery is self-contained to the island, I was thinking that the solution had to be somewhat self-contained to the island as well. And especially when Ava picked up a book in the library, you can see in the video when we actually get around to uploading that one that I was like, oh shit, maybe it's like, you know, the two that it'll tell you of or whatever, the other two books in the series, and then the key is one of them. But the other idea I had for self-containing it to the island was that actually it was an allusion to, like, the two structures on the island. So there's Kuadorian and then the main set of buildings, and maybe, like, the paths on the island where, like, people flowed to and forth between them or some shit, which was just getting a bit artsy, but it was an idea I had on the table anyway, because, you know, it would line up that the paths were the river, the village would be Kuadorian or whatever, the children would be sweet fish.
The children would be sweet fish?
Well, it was, like,
I don't remember that part of your theory, but goddamn. You probably said it at some point.
I don't think I necessarily said it, but it was kind of like, for all of these theories, I was basically matching up the criteria, like the shore, the village, the sweet fish, the river.
Yeah, trying to match them to things that relate in a certain way. Sure.
And then the next idea I kind of had was talking about transport, so like roads and railroads. You know, it's like the two directions on a car road, or like the two metal lines on a railroad or whatever. I couldn't really, as I say here, I couldn't really think of anything for, like, shore other than sidewalks. For, like, car roads, which just felt really abstract. I was kind of like, that's still there, but I'm not really counting on that one. Whereas I was thinking, like, the shore would be the train station, and the village would be the city that it, like, pulls into or whatever.
Sure.
The other ideas that I had is because it was, like, a World War II bunker, maybe it was a war memorial. But couldn't really find anything necessarily to match up for that. But the real clue that just ruined me to begin with was the fact that sweet fish go in salt and fresh water.
Right.
I was like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, even the clue of, you know, water and fish, like, Ava and Rosa, when they're having the conversation in the like, the bunker or the gold room or whatever, they say it didn't really matter. The fish part didn't really matter, but it was a good clue, which I think we'll get to the part about freshwater in a little bit.
Yeah, but, it was so... It screwed me up for so long. But then we got to the second part. So the second part kind of resolved itself very quickly. And this was kind of by circumstance. What ended up happening is while I was going through and researching all of this, I was watching back over our footage from episode 3. So something happened where we kind of got to that. But basically, I was going through, I was thinking, like, you know, what clues could we apply to this part of the Epitaph? I was talking about, like, perhaps graves of the Ashurmia family, and, like, the 6 sacrifices were people who, like, died in, was it Kanto earthquake that, like,
the
ruined
Kanto earthquake,
yeah.
Yes.
And, like, that sort of thing, and it was all just kind of spitballing. There was also the idea that the 6 sacrifices might have something to do with the Rekenja Mamin's 6 house island, right? Yep. Which is something I asked Ben.
Yeah, there are arguably 6 houses on the island, but that kind of depends on your interpretation of the term house.
Yeah.
There's the shrine, Kuadorian, the main house, there's the chapel, I guess the garden shed. Like, there are a number of buildings that could be construed as houses.
Like, I interpret it as buildings, Ben interpreted it as, like, actual living spaces, so we kind of made a bit of a list there. We didn't really get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
the other idea that I had was it was like some combination of 6 people. Like, we had 8 adults, we had 4 kids.
4 kids. We have 5 servants plus an Anjo.
Yeah. So my thought was that, you know, maybe it was some combination of these people. The really weird thing about that is that it would have required some sort of, like, premonition to figure out who would be on the island at the right time to solve it or whatever.
Right.
Which
but
just
that doesn't
didn't really
seem to make
sense.
any sense because of the kind of randomized nature of the killings.
Yeah. And then the other idea that I had was that it was like keys to various parts of the island. I thought that maybe like the master keys that we've spent so much time dealing with had something to do with it. So it was like the 5 master keys and then 1 other, or like the 2 keys to Kinzo's study and 4 others, but what were those other 4? Because we'd also had like a few mentions of the servant's key rack, and we'd not really spent any time looking at it other than being like, that key's missing!
Yeah, there's way more than 6 rooms though. I imagine that trying to narrow down 6 specific keys would be pretty difficult.
Yeah, so that one was really rough. But then what happened was the epitome of beautiful coincidence. And I'm so happy. But what happened at this point is I was like, well, okay, let's try to figure out what would match the, like, sweet fish, freshwater, saltwater thing. And I was like, okay, well, what things kind of have, like, 2 variations on them? And the first one that I thought of was the idea of, like, electric versus steam trains. So I had a quick Google. I looked up, like, when electric trains were first kind of coming about in Japan, and it was kind of relatively close to the story. I think it was 1956 I wrote here.
Yep.
So I was kind of like, that's close enough to maybe be relevant. So I was like, let's just shoot on this. So I then was like, on the other screen that I have, was currently the scene where, Kyrie was talking about the fact that village was the same in Maria's name.
We assume it was Kyrie, yes.
Yeah, because
That's probably wasn't on the screen at the time.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of people I'd seen, but we assume yes.
But, basically that was popping up, and I was like, oh, what if we try this? So I was like, maybe the whole idea of village being in Maria's name is meant to be a clue, but misdirecting. Because that's something that I've been very open to the idea of, is that a lot of these clues are going to be misdirecting. So I figured, alright, well, if we assume the village is like the city, that makes it really broad. So let's say that the train station is the village instead, so then what's the shore?
Yeah.
So I asked Ben for the character for shore, had a quick Google. You can see here I started with train and then the character for shore, and I kind of just got a load of shit, and I was like, whatever, let's go back to the original idea. What about train station shore? Because that was the original thought that I had, was the shore was the train station. And then the entire front page of Google was just one train station.
Killian.
And I was
What a
like,
word.
I was like, this is too specific to be like a coincidence here. So I went onto the Wikipedia page for it. And I spent a little time clicking around links. I didn't really find anything. It was just like, you know, this is the city this goes through, this is the city this goes through. And then I ended up clicking on the Tamsui line, and that was the kind of page that had the most detail on it of the links that I clicked on the page, and I was like, oh, whatever, let's look at like each of these cities that it goes through. And then on the right over here is what popped up.
Yeah. Tamsui District.
Tamsui District. You want to read that for me, Ben?
Tamsui, also Danshui, is a seaside district in New Taipei, Taiwan. It is named after the Tamsui River. The name means freshwater. And there's a bunch of extra information there.
This was,
Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing, yeah.
Like, the moment I saw that, I was like...
Look, I want to say, why the fuck did you not turn around when you saw Taiwan? That's my question. Why were you like, Taiwan, this is where I need to be?
The thing is I was like, this is a load of shit,
Yeah.
but I need to just keep going on something, because otherwise I'm gonna be stuck.
You just kept thinking, all of it.
Because, like, the fact was, I'd been like, I went into Google Street View and I, like, looked around the station a bit and all of these sorts of things. But it was kind of just like, it was time to think. It was like, okay, well, if there is this train station, it has this, like, specific name that showed up, it's probably not a coincidence. And there was also, I believe, I don't remember specifically, but I believe in the, like, Discord chat, you were like, Taiwan, I don't think we've had any mention of that. Might be worth looking into, and I was like, I'm onto something. Yeah, here it is. I don't think there's been any mention of Taiwan in the story. What the fuck do I look into? And yeah, you said like, might be worth looking into. So I was like, all right, I'll keep going. So it was kind of just like a combination of those things, like the fact that I just wanted to keep going, the fact that you were like, probably worth looking into, which anything you say just makes me immediately suspicious of everything.
All right, good to know. Good to know. I just need to stay silent from now on, apparently.
Probably. Like, really, you should just shouldn't be here.
This is true.
It should just be a one-man show.
Yeah, you're better off without me.
But anyway, that combination of things just kept me clicking links until eventually I saw this and I was like, because I was about to just give up on this thread. But I clicked that link, saw that, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
This is it. So then I found a short list of things, like Kilian Shipai, the like new name for the station, which was actually after 1986, I think. So I was kind of like a bit of a weird thing to take anyway, now that I look back on it, but whatever.
Whatever.
And there was also like R20, whatever those 3 characters are.
Yeah, and then you ended up with three words with 6 letters in them, which qualifies the key, theoretically.
And then earlier in the Discord chat, I'd been like, well, when we were talking about the chapel and like what we'd seen there, I think Ben had mentioned that there was a sign above the door. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go find that sign.
Yeah.
Because, like...
But it wasn't in there.
It wasn't in there.
There was no mention of the text. There was no text.
But what we did discover is that I'd been looking, like the first time I went through and looked for it, I saw like the Happy Halloween for Maria, and then they went into the chapel and saw the murder scene, right?
Yep.
But I kept going, and then I discovered it was actually when they left the chapel that they read it.
Right.
So I'd nearly given up on that thread until I just was like, okay, well, when else do we see the chapel? And went back and looked again, and then I saw this conversation, which was, George Aniki pointed to a relief with rusted gold letters on the arch above the door. It looked like some message had been written there in English. Rust made it clear that the letters had been there ever since the chapel's construction, which, first of all, very suspicious thing to say in a book's narration. Looks like it's been there for a really long time.
All things were important, guys. Fact.
And then it was Battler's like, I'm not that good with English. What is it? This door is opened only at probability of, sorry, my English sucks. And then George said, I think it went MBTQ, so how many did that mean?
And then you said,
the best part,
what is he counting?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It was so fantastic.
I think it went MBTQ, so, how many did that mean? I think, anyway, this is incredible. What?
The fuck is MBTQ?
I don't know, it's a great question. Anyway, this is incredible. Are you just gonna look up, like, MBTQ and see what comes up? What?
What?
It's fine, he's just trying to figure out what the word says.
I don't want to look it up, because I feel like that might just point to what this is.
Yeah, probably a bad idea. It's fine, I'm sure we'll find out. Adding up all the fingers in both hands doesn't even get you close.
So I guess...
Or the message, yeah.
I mean, it seems like Roman numerals, because he's like counting it, because how many did that add up to?
Yeah.
But that's not... There's no Q.
Yeah, there's no Q in
Nor
Roman
is there
numerals.
T. Nor is there a B.
It's fine,
There's only M.
Look, I'm sure he'll figure it out. It's fine. It really would be impossible unless a miracle occurred.
God damn it. I was like, he's counting, but it's not Roman numerals. It was really dumb.
It was great.
It was really dumb.
I was just sitting there chuckling. It was great.
But yeah, like the moment I saw MBTQ, I was like, I know what this is. Because like, Killian, quadrillion, there's too many matching letters. There's too many. So then what I did is I was like, all right, well, cool, we're dealing with letters. Let's sacrifice some letters. So I chopped them all out, and if you look down in the Discord chat, I made a bunch of spelling mistakes because I at some point started writing it Killion instead of Killian.
Yep.
I don't know how I ended up doing that, but...
You almost ruined everything.
I almost ruined everything. But then, in an effort to not screw it up the second time, I did what you can see in the bottom left here, where I, like, put it into a box and compared them side by side.
Yep.
And that ended up actually being really useful, because the moment I saw them in step 1 here, whereas U-DR-L, I was like, okay, cool, we gotta split up DR.
Yep.
Too easy.
Do you want to go through the Twilights, specifically?
We're getting there.
Okay.
And then it was basically like, alright, cool, where do we go from here? And we,
You thought it was Beatrice for a little bit?
No. So what happened is I was like...
The praising was
for
Beatrice?
Yeah, what happened... You skipped a step.
Did I?
What happened was I was like, alright, how the hell do we praise with a bunch of letters on a sign, right? I guess we have to rearrange the letters or something? So I was like, all right, cool. In an effort to just keep going, I was like, all right, let's just arrange them alphabetically, see what that does for us. And that ended up with step 3 there, which is DLORU. And then I was like, okay, cool. Well, I guess we actually have to praise someone, right? So who was it? Well, it's about Beatrice, but that only matches the letter R. It's written by Kinzo, but that only matches the letter O. And then I was like, all right, Shiramiya. Duh. So I took out the U so that we were left with DLOR, and then I started just spinning the letters around, chessboard around, and immediately the moment I moved everything one step to the left, it was Lord, and I was like, all right, Lord you. And you might think to yourself, well, that's really weird, why did you try to do that? And that was because, as I said, I'd been watching episode 3 at the time, so I'd also just been exposed to the clue that maybe there's an anagram there.
Yeah.
So it was like going through the list, we'd covered the like Japanese character representing something else, we'd covered like all of the first few clues that they'd been through, all that was left was the anagram, so I was like, alright, let's try this one here, and lo and behold, it came out with something. So that was really neat, but then of course, from there, we're kind of like, what the hell do we do here?
Yeah, I mean,
So
the problem is that if the clues are to be believed about the chapel, do you want to go over that? What's at the chapel? You want to tell us about that?
I mean, there's a rusted sign above the door.
Yeah.
I was also like, are there any statues near it? And Ben sent me an image of the PS3 version,
And
which
there
has like
totally
a
is.
statue of a lion.
Yeah. The problem is that we're having now is that to like complete the epitaph, it seems to indicate we need to be on the island to do it.
Yeah.
So we can't confirm or deny whether this is the truth or not. Of course.
I mean, I can confirm that this is the truth. Because none
Say
of
it in red.
this lines up too much. There is just, if the epitaph stops here, what the hell is the actual answer?
Yeah.
Because like, if this is all misdirection up to this point,
It's true.
what do I do?
You went through a fucking crazy journey
Yeah.
to fucking Taiwan and back, which has never been mentioned in the story.
Never
and
been
somehow you
mentioned
went
in the
there.
story. It was such a long fucking shot, but we still got there. So then we kind of get up to the rest of the epitaph, and like, what the hell are the actual like first 3 Twilights? Like, if we're sacrificing letters, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So the things that I've kind of suggested thus far, now we're just getting back into speculation, and you can like look at this here on the document, is we're kind of dealing with, I think that because everything that we've dealt with for the Twilight so far has been on the sign, or like to do with the sign, it's probably actually physically to do with it, so like, you know, maybe we're like pushing the letters into the sign like they're a button, or maybe we're like pulling them out of the sign, there's like a pin or whatever that's holding them in, and then you can like swap the pins around to move the letters or whatever.
Sure.
So that's kind of like my initial idea there, though that's really not founded in anything, it's just guesses on how we would actually use this as a mechanism.
Sure.
Because the other thing I mentioned here is that, like, the fact that we've seen, like, this bunker and there's some way to access it probably means there's some kind of, like, physical mechanism that actually leads to opening up the Golden Land or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that we have to complete, like, some electrical circuit or have to do some bongo tapping rain dance shit.
Play a musical tune.
Yeah. But basically the idea is that, you know, we have to like press the buttons or like pull them out of the sign, or like for the gouge or whatever, it's like, you know, we press them in, twist them or whatever, because I was saying like gouge would be like a stab and twist to me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's probably what that is. We kind of need to actually look at the sign to see if that would be a physically possible thing though, so these are just kind of wild guesses at this point. And then the other thing that I thought is perhaps we still have this like the fact that we're gouging body parts, which didn't really make sense to me. Like, I did notice that it kind of goes from like top to bottom.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like just indicative of a sequence. So maybe if we like can't move the letters around on the sign to form Lord
Maybe
U.
the sign when you spell Lord Hugh, it like spins and whirs and like goes to be a vertical.
I mean, I was more thinking like along the lines of if we can't like, because we sacrifice like the 6 letters, right? So we like get rid of them from the sign.
Sure.
But then if we can't do that for the others, maybe it's just like the order that you have to push them in
Maybe.
is like top to bottom LORDU, even if they're still in that other order. Though that's like, I have nothing to base that on. That's just a straight guess.
Cool.
And then the other idea that I'd suggested is maybe, like, the sacrifice part isn't actually talking about, like, removing the first 6 from the sign. Maybe it's actually saying, like, you can ignore these 6, deal with the other ones.
Sure.
So, like, that's kind of weird because then the second Twilight doesn't really work. But I was thinking, like, maybe if there is, like, the pin or, like, key or whatever on the back of the sign, we can, like, pull them out and then, like, stab them into something. So I was thinking, like, maybe the statue that we saw in the PS3 version, we, like, stick it into, like, holes on the side of the statue or some shit. Maybe. Or the other idea that I had was actually the portrait of Beatrice, and you can see, like, on page 6 here, talking about, like, hiding in plain sight. It's kind of weird that there's 2 portraits that have been made.
Yep.
So maybe it's like one of those portraits has to be sacrificed to, like, gain access, so maybe you, like, physically put, like, these keys or buttons or whatever
the appropriate locations on the portrait.
And that would kind of explain why there were 2 made, maybe. And also it's the kind of thing where it's like, it'd keep it well out of people's view because who the hell is going to just tear the portrait through?
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're just straight speculation here.
No, that's cool.
So that was kind of my idea for all of those ones.
Yeah, but then this only brings you to the end. Well, we have the 9th Twilight, none shall be left alive.
Yeah.
And then the 10th Twilight, which is that you reach the Golden Land, correct?
Yeah, so the 9th one is kind of just like, okay, you've dealt with all of the letters, because if we're, like, sticking with the idea that it's on the sign, that's kind of my idea there. It's just like, okay, we've gone through all of them.
Sure.
Which would make sense, because then the numbers add up.
Yeah.
Quadrillion would be the correct number of letters to sacrifice 6, and then get rid of 5.
Yeah, that would be.
And then the other thing is, for the 10th one, it says the journey shall end, and in Epitaph Part 3 here on the document, I kind of addressed that. I've kind of separated that from the main Twilights, because what I think that means, the journey shall end, is that this is it, you've solved the puzzle, here's the proof that you've solved the puzzle.
Yep.
So I think the third part of the Epitaph is not a puzzle to solve, I think it's, oh, you've done all of these things, here's what you'll see if you are correct. So if it is like this bunker below the ground or whatever, the bunker will open up, or there'll be, like, you know, big flashing neon sign, bunker this way!
Gold here!
Yeah.
Come get your gold. I swear it's not a trap.
But basically, like, you know, through whatever mechanism it ends up being,
sure.
Once you've, like, entered the bunker, the puzzle's over, here's what you'll see. So the ideas that I had, I kind of, first of all, because it says the witch shall revive on the 10th Twilight, no, the 9th Twilight, I was like, okay, well that's weird, because then she also goes to sleep. So the idea that I had is it's like, perhaps if we're dealing with the idea of the witch as a story, it's like the moment that a tunnel opens up and you go down and there's a fucking pile of gold below the island, it's like, oh shit, the stories were real. But then, what I was thinking is that, because if we're sticking with the no magic theory, which we are,
of course we are,
then clearly that wouldn't work, right? So what it would probably be is it's like, oh shit, it's true, like, the gold is here, this is here, the, like, lounge or whatever that we saw when Ava went down there, but then we'd also see what the actual truth was of, like, how the gold is, and one of the things I suggested early on was that, if Kinzo was, like, part of the war effort or whatever, maybe he found it, where was it? He bought the island after the war, right? Large tunnel with a bunker below the island sounds like a war base.
Is it 3:37 p.m.?
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
It was already there and he got the island to hold on to the gold. So that was kind of the idea there, is that we'd find out that maybe it was like Kinzo actually secured the gold from whoever had put it there originally by getting the island.
Sure.
So what that would do is it's like the story of the witch is then, oh, this is what actually happened. So the story of the witch is basically bygone. And then the other thing is that if we remember that, like, we were read truth that human Beatrice did exist on the island in 1967, right?
Damn, I think so. That's a double check. Let's check that red truth.
But basically, well, they definitely had a conversation in this place at that time. Either way.
Yeah, that was right, because it was 19 years prior.
But basically, the idea that I had is maybe the whole, like, truth is that Kinzo's, like, drunk himself into a stupor, he's going crazy with all this black magic shit, he's not talking to his family, like, he's gone deranged over this lost love, so maybe it's like, you know, put the witch to sleep for all time, sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice is like, he knows that the truth is that she's gone.
Okay.
But he's, like, clinging to hope. And the thing that I compared it to over here is that Battler can't accept that Beatrice exists as a witch, and Kinzo can't accept that Beatrice is gone. And I found that like a really interesting parallel that maybe supported that idea, though I mean, we'll get into that, I'm imagining, in the story, if that's the case.
That's a good observation.
So I think that basically the witch falling to sleep is just like, the story's done. We know the truth now. It's no longer like this mystical thing, it's like, oh, this is what happened. For the gold, now like getting back into order because I wanted to deal with that one first because it also addressed the Ninth Twilight. Getting back into order, I think the gold is just the gold. I don't think that's meant to be astounding. I don't think we have any reason to believe that it's astounding.
Okay.
I think the fact that there was like red engraved on the door in the bunker, whilst it's not like, if wishes aren't real, then it's like, okay, the red truth is meaningless. But it could be alluding to the fact that that is actually there. And also it was the 10th Twilight written on that door, right? The journey shall end.
Yes.
Yeah, so it, like, I don't know. I think that that's actually just what that's going to... I think it's just going to be the pile of gold. I don't...
Sure, sounds fine. It's not that significant. A pile of 10 billion yen of gold is, like, not that significant, really.
I mean, if the premise of the story is that they're already that rich anyway...
I'm taking the piss out of you, but
Yeah,
this is very impressive. I am shocked. Lambda shocked.
Yeah, for the dead souls, this is kind of like one of the trickier ones. I didn't really have any solid ideas, so I'm just spitballing on this one. To tie it back in with the Kinzo and his family and his lost love, it might be that it's like, okay, we see the truth of Beatrice, this like shattered memory of her where she's become this mystical being is like done and she's now allowed to be free of this mystical shackle that she's been kind of bound to through story.
Sure.
It could just be like, you know, although that sounds very magical, the implication is more that it's like she is not magic and her soul in like people's perception is allowed to be free of this story. I
think this is something we'll have time to talk about later, but I do find it's interesting that in the story in EP3, Ava reached the gold.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to have, like, this Twilight doesn't seem to have happened. Like, Beatrice is still around.
Yeah.
Even the power is passed, but, like, murder's still happening.
Mean, the things
that's something more relevant to EP3 in the Epitaph, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is there, though, is that we're still dealing with Beatrice's game board, so until someone actually solves the Epitaph without, like, Beatrice's hands moving pieces around the chessboard or whatever.
Oh, I see.
We're not actually going to see the actual end.
It's true. Ava did reach that conclusion with certainty, after all.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was considering is that the idea was a war bunker or whatever. Not too long ago, I watched a, like, travel documentary, which I go into a bit more detail about here, but basically they spoke about how a whole bunch of Japanese soldiers, like, killed themselves in bunkers to avoid being captured. So the idea I had is maybe the dead souls is, like, actually a mass grave or something that's left there as a result of that. I don't know, that was like a really weird abstract idea, but it just popped into my head because I'd been, like, thinking about the show because it's, like, probably the most recent indication of Japanese culture I've been exposed to other than Umineko.
Right,
so it's like, it's been on the brain.
Sounds good.
But yeah, that's kind of the one I'm most lost on because it's either overlapping another Twilight or it's just this really wacky idea that I have.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
I like it. More wacky is crazy.
Exactly.
That sounds like Kinzo.
Yeah, I mean, theory's not making sense is really what this is all about.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And then the Lost Love is another kind of confusing one because, again, it kind of overlaps with the idea of Beatrice
and Kinzo,
But, you know, let's just throw ideas out on the table. Maybe it's like bringing the family back together to solve the Epitaph. Maybe it's like his children coming to understand his struggle. You know, maybe it's people who've left the family returning to it because it was written while, like, Battler's away. It was written at a time when Rose's husband's gone. So, I don't know.
Yeah, you think that maybe solving the Epitaph and, like, getting the gold would help, like, bring everyone back together.
Yeah, I did
Money does solve all problems.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of have the idea that, if there's, like, some people that are away from the family that we don't know about, like Rose's husband, maybe there's actually more people we don't know about.
Sure.
Though that kind of doesn't really have any foundation other than just being a thought that I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. So hit me with everything that you can without telling me that I'm completely correct. Because, let's be real, I know I am. I know it.
You want me to poke holes in this?
Sure, go for it.
You want me to see if I can poke holes in it? Alright, hold on. Let me just, I'm gonna scroll through this document here.
Sure, what do you want to know?
It's gonna...
Because I mean, everything after speculation is just speculation.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Like,
I think that this is an excellent essay.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is.
Like, honestly,
everything links together.
No matter what you say about the first up to the third Twilight, I reckon I got that down. We can talk about the mechanism. We can talk about how we don't know.
I don't
how that's
think it's
done.
worth discussing that. If you think that it's like a mechanism on the island that you have to manipulate,
Yeah,
then
there's no
I
way.
can't prove that without like talking about stuff that we don't know yet. Either way, right?
And the other thing is, right, is that like I'm pretty solid that at least the reasoning up until the third Epitaph third Twilight rather, is pretty solid.
Oh shit, there's more Epitaphs.
Oh,
That's the
shit.
twist. We get the answer at the end of EP3, and then there's like 5 more Epitaphs.
Yeah, from the fourth Twilight onwards, it's still just kind of speculation. So like, I don't know if you want to poke holes in
I mean, honestly, the only thing I'll kind of talk about, the stuff after the Twilights, I would say remember that this is like this Epitaph is written by Kinzo.
Yeah.
That's probably the main thing to remember. Think about what he wants, and any information that we have about him and his history.
Yeah.
I think that'll be important to keep in mind when resolving the last few puzzles there. But yeah, I'm not going to even try and poke holes in the Twilights and everything before that, because I don't feel confident enough to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like, as much as you can beat around the bush and be like,
I can either confirm or deny anything.
yeah, as much as you say that, it's still like, I think
It's so solid.
There are too many things lining
I know.
up for this to just be outright wrong.
This is the thing. This is the way that Rikushi writes, right? He doesn't give you explicit answers. He gives you a fuck ton of clues that when you see the answer, you're like, everything makes sense. Like all those like misdirecting moments, all those like clues, all the little things people said, like lining up like a fucking golden path to the end.
The Golden Capital.
Golden Capital, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really impressive. I don't really have much to poke into it. I think it's brilliant. It's fucking great. You've exceeded all expectations.
I'm so glad you think so highly of me.
I do. Look, you fucking... This is phenomenal. I've never seen anyone think this hard about the Epitaph. Nobody's come even close.
I mean, one thing you'll see in the Discord chat if you scroll down is I was like, I am bad at riddles. How did I do this?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Because it's like, there was a riddle in like The Hobbit or something when it's like the conversation with Bilbo and Gollum. And it was like, I was like 13 at the time or whatever. But it was still like, I was reading that and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'll just flip to the next page.
I mean, it was a combination of talent, luck, and time, really.
Yeah, it really was.
Which is fine.
Like,
that's
if
great.
I hadn't been watching that specific episode when I was trying to solve it at that specific time, like, I reckon the idea about Shaw being the alternate character wouldn't have even popped into my head.
Yeah.
Like, that was honestly just kind of lucky. As much as I'd like to praise my own thinking, I honestly don't think I could have done this without a bit of coincidence. Bit of magic. Bit of miracles.
A bit of a gamble,
Yeah.
maybe, on the Demon's Roulette. Let's not do that. That involves murder.
Does it, though? Or have we just demonstrated that it doesn't?
Well, that's the other question.
Oh.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, hit me.
If we have confirmed that the Epitaph is a solid thing that can be solved, and you in fact have many of the answers, what does that indicate about the murders on the island if they are following the Epitaph, but we know that we can solve it in another way? What do we know? Might be worth thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to initially, like, throw a theory out, I've mentioned it a few times, but if it is, like, someone actually going through and doing, like, actually murdering this many people, or close to this many people,
Yeah.
they're probably just a psychopath.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't think there is a motive that could drive you to kill that many people.
Sure.
The only other thing, like, you know, it could be that it was, like, one murder then cascaded into others. Which would be kind of weird, because I don't know, it's, like, seems, especially in the first episode, that it's kind of too planned out, especially with, like, the
Everything
final letter.
seems very planned out. These locked rooms are too fucking connected to not be planned out, right?
Exactly, and, it just, the only other thought that I have had is maybe the whole idea where it's like, well, if you suspect this servant, then you're suspecting all of the servants. Maybe that's actually it. Maybe it is actually, like, only 1 or 2 people die, but then everyone else is in on it.
Right.
Because, like, that would make more sense for a motive thing rather than just being a psychopath.
Sure.
Of course, the only problem is that we haven't seen the time after the murders.
Yeah.
So it's really weird to know how that actually plays into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have a lot of information of what goes along, like, behind the scenes of each murder. Because we see, you know, the magical killings, but we rarely see, like, the actual murder, right?
Yeah.
we don't see people killing each other. We see monsters and demons, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It might be worth thinking about what we can learn about, you know, the culprit and the Epitaph and Kinzo and everything from solving the Epitaph, really. It's a pretty fucking, it's like the hardest riddle in the entire game. And I do call it a game, because I think that's pretty clear there's a fucking game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that you can learn a lot about it. It's very core to the mystery. Yeah. I think that's all I had to say. I think this is really good.
I'm glad you weren't able to disprove anything I said.
I don't think I have the courage to try anything.
Victory is mine!
Look, someone on the forum, get on his ass, tell him why he's wrong.
I can't wait.
No spoilers.
Aspie's just gonna be like, he doesn't know much about the Japanese media, and I'm gonna be like, oh, my heart.
Well, this is the... Oh, God, I can't say that. But, I can't say that. But somebody who is more confident than myself, give it a shot. See if you can tear him apart. Seraphitic, Aspie, I don't know who else. Anybody else who wants to give it a shot?
Yeah, but once again, shout out to the guys over at Rekenjima.
Yeah, you guys are great.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode. For those of you who are just catching up to it now that we've put it out on the regular schedule, back to regular programming up next.
Yay! More EP3.
Woo!
Oh wait, or EP1. But we're recording more EP3, so it's kind of both.
Yeah, it's kind of both.
And we're editing EP2.
Oh my god, it's too much.
It's too much!
It's like time travel.
Oh, it's great. It's like we're visiting past game boards.